No.
Now we are. We're now simulcasting live over YouTube and also on Instagram. So you can catch us on either of those platforms as well. And last but not least, if you don't want to spend your valuable credits, but you still want to get on to us free of cost, you can buzz us on our WhatsApp number, 928-2562. From there, just simply send us a WhatsApp voice note or audio note and or a traditional WhatsApp text message. So I think that pretty much covers the ground for our topics here today. And yes, I am.
Yeah, so looking forward to having our guest coming in at 5 o'clock. It should be good. Starting off with these candidates is getting all exciting.
It is getting exciting.
As we talk about election time, it's all good. So hopefully persons will be listening in and joining on the conversation.
I think we also have an update regarding our looking ahead schedule for Friday. We made some adjustments, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. So we did have a special guest, again, Mr. Travers, to come in on Friday, but there's been a change, and it seems like that's going to happen on Monday. Yes. But again, this is going to be on beneficial ownership, something very important to the Cayman Islands when we talk about the secrecy within the banking industry, which, of course, has taken on somewhat of a negative connotation, but I encourage you to not look at it that way. And it should be a good discussion. I think I mentioned the other day, Austin, just because someone closes their curtains doesn't mean they're doing something bad. They just want a little bit of privacy.
Correct.
Seems pretty normal to me.
No, I think so. I think you're absolutely right. And just whilst we are forward-looking, because, again, the race to the Parliament building is starting to heat up, certainly with the middle of March, and then, of course, going on to April, which is really only giving you a month left. Next week, Wednesday, I think that's the 26th of March, we will also have the opportunity to host the independent candidate for the constituency of Red Bay, Mr. Philip Ebanks, will be our guest in studios. So for the listening audience, you might want to mark that in your calendar.
Apparently.
Huh?
It's a Wednesday thing, apparently.
It's a Wednesday thing. Apparently, Wednesday seems to be the preferred date for at least the
Wednesday is normally the election day, right?
Yeah, it is quite right. So hey, look at that. Look at that.
Normally election day, they choose Wednesdays.
Yes. So we will have Mr. Philip Ebanks as our guest in studios next week, Wednesday. So mark that in your calendar. He will join us from 4:30 to 5 p.m. And again, likewise, we're looking forward to that conversation. But always add us, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook. And, of course, you will get those updates on the upcoming shows, along with hopefully some enjoyable viewing images, part of our promotions, compliments of our social media partner, NetClues. I want to send a shout-out to them as well for their hard work, helping to keep us current with members of our listening audience, and in particular over
helping us to
media.
look good.
Helping us to do good. Quite right.
Look good, I said.
Look good. Look good. Well, in that case, it's, for you it's easy. For me, it's a tall order. So, we...
So that means they're doing a really good job then.
They're doing a fantastic job. They're doing a fantastic job.
Oh, Austin, you're hilarious. That's a good one.
I say I got a face made for radio. That way they tell me. So, I just believe them, I suppose.
Lord. There's not a thing wrong with you.
Not you. See, that's why you are my friend and my colleague. And again, I'm just thrilled to work with you, Ellio. I'm just thrilled to work with you.
You're perfectly handsome. You're a handsome young man. Don't worry about it. You notice I appended young.
Yes, no, I like that. I like that indeed. No, I'll take all the compliments while I can get them, boy.
You got to take them.
Indeed.
All right. So what are you chatting about? Any good news, Austin?
I don't know.
I used to watch the Muppets. Didn't the Muppets used to say something like, "Good news is no news"? Didn't you? One of the guys sitting on the balcony there.
Oh yes,
you remember that?
I remember those two guys on the balcony.
Hey, what do you think of that guy? Good news is no news.
Again, I think I saw a post somewhere on Instagram that said it was thanks to people, to those of us who grew up in the Muppets era, and certainly with those two guys, that we learned what sarcasm was from early on. Again,
boy, they would laugh at you, boy.
They would make no bones about laughing at you at all. They were the best. I forget their names though. I'm gonna have to look that one up.
Yeah, I don't remember all the names.
Again, Ellio and I showing our
But
age.
I know when I see them.
Yes, absolutely, certainly do. Well, I don't know about good news, but we kind of are behind the gun on our election campaign debates, particularly sort of summarizing the debates that took place over the course of the last few days. We had the Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum taking center stage in Prospect on Monday, so 2 days ago. So we are a little remiss in providing our summary. That was the first night in their ongoing series where the candidates debated, consisting of members of all three of the groups or parties that are contesting the upcoming general election. There were no independent candidates. They had Crystal Gomez from the PPM, Michael Miles from the Cayman Islands National Party, and Sabrina Turner from the Caymanian Community Party. Again, I watched it.
Pure party, man. Them come out of Prospect, man.
Boy, you see it, boy. You see it. There's enough of them. The candidates, all three of the candidates were not fans of the immigration point system, but they all differed in terms of how they would make improvements to it. They all also agreed that improvements to the road system, specifically in Prospect, was necessary, as did they all agree that the issue of traffic was a major issue amongst constituents in that constituency. But they also addressed things like the skills gaps, addressing Caymanians. It's not surprising that on the skills gaps question, Michael Miles, I thought, offered the best response, given his largely life's work with young people, young children, boys, and whatnot. In one of the notable exchanges, it took place actually between Michael Miles and Sabrina Turner, when Turner was answering questions about gathering information from the general public in terms of what are some of the key issues going forward and how to solve them, saying that, you know, rather than presenting solutions or ideas as to how to address these pressing issues, which, as we continue to say over the course of last several weeks, they're not really new issues. They've been with us for a number of decades. She, you know, kind of gave the comment that, you know, rather than proposing solutions, she says, we need to gather data. We need more information. I think she said, and I quote, I am data driven. Data. Getting our people invested and being part of growth were some of her remarks, but still obviously reaching out and engaging the public as a representative, whereas Michael Miles said, listen, you know, we've got enough data in the halls of Parliament and government, certainly pointing to her last 4 years, saying, you know, certainly you had that learning curve opportunity. What we need to do now is to start implementing some of the recommendations from some of the many reports that have been issued, but so far are gathering dust, but suggesting that, you know, more could be done, and the excuse of gathering data was, well, again, just a cop-out from his point of view. I think...
Well, that is somewhat of an odd one, because you would, well, again, unless there's something specific that I'm missing, you would expect her to, over the 4 years, to gather a lot of data.
Exactly. I think that was a major takeaway that, you know, had a lot of people shrugging. It's like, well, hang on. You were in government 4 years. And again, it was your first term. We get that. Right. And certainly there is a learning curve, and completely respect that. And going in as a minister is certainly being pushed into the deep end very quickly, and you're forced to, you know, tread water or sink. But certainly in 4 years and being in cabinet gives you the ability to access that information much more readily available to you than it would say.
And do you have what the specific question was?
I think they were looking at Cayman's long-term vision, whether it be the development plan or you know, the direction for some of the key policies of government. You know, whether it be employment, the skills gap, addressing that, getting Caymanians employed, et cetera, et cetera. It seemed to be largely from the standpoint that, you know, more data was needed in order to, you know, make a strategic decision one way or the other, whereas Michael Miles took an entirely different slant, saying, we don't need any more, you know, data missions. We don't need to commission any more reports. We need to act on the knowledge that we have readily available, but more importantly, put policies in place that can start benefiting Caymanians today, which certainly I think resonates with the voter base. You know, they don't want to hear, you know, I got a plan, but elect me first and I'll tell you that plan, whereas they want to hear, what are you going to do for me? Help me make a choice come April 30th. So again, I you know, looking at Prospect, which is obviously near and dear to my heart, I have to think that, you know, if I were to grade the debate, I think Michael Miles, you know, took first place in that. Sabrina Turner, the incumbent, coming in a close second. Regrettably, you know, Crystal Gomez showed her nerves, but to treat her fairly, she was also struggling with a bit of a cold. so she wasn't feeling the greatest. You could hear her sniffling and congested and whatnot. That's certainly a tough forum to not be at your best, and of course to also be dealing with nerves. It is a intimidating environment for a first-time candidate, any first-time candidate.
Well, that's what I was going to say. In fairness to her and to Sabrina, well, I kind of get to give on side on all of them. If I was to say something in defense of Sabrina, it would be that she spent 4 years or almost 4 years. She was health, right?
Yes.
So clearly that would have been, that's a lot different than even just simply being elected as a minister. I imagine there's a lot of focus on that particular area. And if there is a defensive position to take on behalf of the looking for data, it would probably be that. She would have been focused very much on health. I know that Michael Miles worked a lot has done a lot over the years with youth.
Yes.
So in his particular case, he probably doesn't really need much data, just to the same point that he made earlier.
Yes.
And yeah, Ms. Crystal Gomez is a new person running, and I think we should all give a little bit of a leeway for the nerves. It's not easy. Most persons are terrified. It's the number one fear they say in the world.
Yes.
Is public speaking. Now, not that you and I can understand why, Austin.
No clue. No clue whatsoever.
You have no idea what you're talking
about.
Yeah. But it is something that a lot of people are very, very uncomfortable with, and of course, you got to give way for that. But we'll see. Wishing the three of them the best. It's lots of groundwork.
Yes. Yeah. So again, we do apologize. We were a little remiss in providing updates on it, but it is only Wednesday. What has taken place so far? Let's see. So we had Monday was Prospect. Savannah was yesterday. And tonight the battle goes to Newlands with that'll be the former Premier Wayne Panton up against Alvis Suku.
And Raul, right?
Yeah, and Raul Gonzalez will also.
Wasn't there a fourth person in there?
I don't know. I have to check my list, which is unfortunately on the computer that's in front of you. But certainly at some point in time today, we'll verify the candidates who will be contesting in that race, and we'll share those details with you. But certainly we encourage folks to check out the YouTube channel for the Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce, their Candidate Forums 2025. I think they do a fantastic job, and it's providing a great opportunity to voters to get to know their candidates. And, well, we can't, do any more than point them in that direction. Mm-hmm. As far as our own direction, again, a reminder coming up at 5 o'clock right after the BBC News, we will host our own version of Get to Know the Candidate with our guest representing the Cayman Islands National Party. Mr. Haymond Rankin, again, will be our guest in studios at 5 p.m., and he will remain with us all the way until 6 o'clock. So we'll have a great opportunity to hear what some of his top priorities are, and again, create an opportunity for members of the listening audience, in particular supporters or constituents, potential constituents in Bordentown West, to call up and engage Mr. Rankin. Again, reminding the audience that conversation begins at 5 p.m., just after the BBC News.
And I will stress, in terms of engaging Mr. Rankin or anyone of the candidates who are going to come in the studio, clearly, as Austin and I have agreed, I think it is very, very important that we are here to help facilitate the message getting out.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely don't want any gotchas here in the studio, and don't want anyone calling and throwing rocks from the bushes either. Yeah. I think it should be if you're calling in, it's because you want to ask a question specifically that's related to the political situation at hand, or for clarification. No rocks behind the bushes, and I got that from you, Austin.
No rocks behind the bushes. That's right.
The bushes.
That's right. Indeed. Well, again, we want to encourage folks. Like we said yesterday, don't be a hypocrite. Take a position. Defend it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll gladly listen to it. Can't say that, we're going to agree with every position, but we will listen to it.
Yeah.
And that's what that's how a conversation is created, and that's certainly the environment that we want to set here at Straight Talking Studios. Yes, there will come a time when, perhaps after the elections and persons are members of the government, that we may, be a bit more critical. But it's critical only to the extent of fulfilling, obviously, our primary goal, which is to educate, elevate, and enlighten members of our listening audience on the issues that obtain.
Yeah, I think it's just very important, and amongst the storm of all the things that are going on, the politicians clamoring to get their signs up. And why? Because they want to be seen. They want you to see them. They want you to know that they're running. They want you to give them a chance. And at the same time, the most important thing for the general public is not for Austin and I or anybody else to just be beating up on a politician about one specific thing, but it's about being able to ensure that they get the message out, that you hear it as crystal clear as they want you to see their signs, and for you to now go ahead and make an informed decision based on what you understand they are going to do and not doing. You can listen to it, how they're stumbling, if they don't answer it directly. All those things are things that are going to be able to help you to make your decision.
No, absolutely. And speaking of making a decision and an opportunity for members of the public to participate in democracy, we see an article appearing in today's Cayman Compass, which states that Her Excellency the Governor, Jane Owen, is inviting people to apply to serve as election and referendum observers in the upcoming polls on April 30th, which I think is rather interesting. I think this might be the first time an opportunity or invitation has been extended to the local populace. We have, for at least 2, maybe even 3 election cycles, had international election observers visit the island and certainly observe the election process in the Cayman Islands. And I think that's a good thing. And one of the reasons why in past elections it was decided, obviously, to see how we do it in the Cayman Islands, because in the Cayman Islands for a long time, we maintain a high percentage of voter turnout every 4 years. So that's a credit to the voters in this country for, obviously, in large majority, exercising.
A question I asked myself from the very beginning, because even when it started was obviously a reason to be extremely curious for myself, is why did we need the observers at that point in time? Why exactly did we need the observers? Whatever went wrong? Yeah. And there was never any complaints. Yeah. Well. And for what it's worth, I think people should make note of that, because a question to ask yourself, I think amongst other things, it doesn't necessarily paint the best of picture, because an immediate question that would come to someone's mind is, well, why are there persons coming there to observe the election? Is something going wrong? Or mine immediately tends to go to the negative, right?
Right.
Again, you could put the positive spin on it. No, everything is fine, but we just want to make sure it's fine.
Right.
But I always question, why exactly did we need the international observers initially?
Well, I take your point. Certainly, it is human nature to assume the worst. But certainly, as has been the case for at least 2 election cycles, hasn't been anything wrong with the process. As a matter of fact, as I understood it, because I particularly asked during the 2017-2021 election race, that obviously took place in 2017, and it was simply on that basis election officials told me, listen, our voter turnout is something to be proud of. It's considered impressive in the region, and voters, the observers wanted to see what makes that tick. What are we doing, in the process that may be different than what other Caribbean islands and nations may be doing. It helps to be little bitty, as Alan Jackson likes to say. So we're small in size, and it makes, obviously, things like a national election relatively, I won't say relatively easier, but less complicated than perhaps in larger countries like Jamaica, Puerto Rico, etc., where they have, much larger population numbers. But nonetheless, if you can create a system that is well-oiled, and certainly you have...
Well, I'll make a bet. I make a bet that one of the fundamental reasons you get a higher voter turnout is when people feel like there's an opportunity for hope.
Yes.
And I, quite frankly, not that I want to go down this ravine today.
Yes.
But I think as you watch single-member constituencies, I think you're going to continue to see those numbers drop. I'll bet you if you look at 21, the numbers are lower than 17. Yeah. And I'm going to bet you, I almost said the wrong thing. I'll bet you nicely that it's going to be lower again in 2025.
Well, I hope that's not the case, but certainly to your point, 2021 was lower than 2017. We talked about that yesterday as well. Certainly in the constituency of Prospect, a third of the voters in that constituency, for whatever reason, decided to stay home. And again, it wasn't exclusive to Prospect. It was felt across the 19 constituencies. So we'll have to wait and see. But back to the governor's request, again, all observers will be responsible for monitoring campaign activities, polling and vote counting, as well as providing objective reports that identify both good practices and areas where improvements can be made, the governor noted in her press release. The committee, which is chaired by the Deputy Governor Franz Manderson, will review all applications and obviously make recommendations to the governor. Public servants are not eligible in order to uphold the principle of political neutrality in public service. To apply, individuals can submit their resume and a short one-page letter describing their skills and experience to Faye Kluczynski, 2 at gov.ky by 24th March 2024. Again, if you want to, get this email address, just check out today's Cayman Compass under the article titled "Election Monitors Sought for April 30th Polls."
And then I wonder how they'll deal with the issue of party affiliations and so on, right? That's going to be challenging.
Quite right. It will be challenging. We did get a message on WhatsApp to answer the question we were trying to find out earlier on.
What's that one?
Statler and Waldorf were the names of the Muppets in the balcony that shouted down their
Somebody.
yeah.
Hey,
Statler and Waldorf. Yes, I remember Waldorf. Statler I didn't remember, but Waldorf and Statler.
Now that you say it, it comes.
Now that you say it, yeah, it sounds, and you can just see their faces, can't you?
Oh, yeah, I can.
Yeah, you can absolutely see their faces. Well, 745-2626 is the number. Again, reminding the listening audience, coming up at 5 o'clock, right after the BBC News, we will be welcoming Mr. Heyman Rankin, the candidate for the constituency of Bordentown West, representing, of course, the Cayman Islands National Party. He will be our guest in studios, encouraging the listening audience who might be tuned in to, again, give us at least the first 20 to 30 minutes to chat with Mr. Rankin, get to know a little bit about himself, his background, and in particular what some of his key priorities will be for his constituency of Bordentown West, should he be elected on April 30th. And thereafter, we will then open up the phone lines and encourage members of the public, but specifically and ideally, if persons do call in, they would in fact represent constituents of Bordentown West, because that would be the ideal circumstance in which to obviously move forward with other discussions. But certainly outside of that, barring that, any member of the public can certainly chime in and make their questions or even their statements known to Mr. Rankin. So that is coming up in just over 1 minute, and we encourage the listening audience to be a part of that. The phone lines will be open at 745-2626. Or if talking isn't your thing on the telephone lines, well, again, you can send us a WhatsApp message at 928-2562. And not last but not least, you can certainly email us your questions to host@straighttalk.ky is another option available to you. And certainly, however we receive those comments or questions, we will share them live on air with the guest who will be in studios. 36 seconds remaining before we go off to the first break. Anything you want to add before we go off to the news?
Well, all I can say is, how much time do we have in here?
25 seconds.
Well, all I can say is thank you very much for listening to Cayman Crosstalk. We're going to be bringing up Mr. Rankin soon. And of
You
course,
said it again. You're not Cayman Crosstalk anymore,
I
buddy.
got that
Straight
crosstalk.
talk.
Hey,
Straight talk.
Old Harvest die hard, my friend.
They certainly do. Keep it locked to Straight Talk right here live on Bobo 103.1 FM. Heyman Rankin joins us next.
Bobo FM. We're making Bobo FM bigger and better. We've gone a brand new frequency with even more power. Retune your FM radio to 103.1 now. This is Bobo FM, the home of the BBC World Service, the most trusted news source in the world. Now in our new home of 103.1 FM. This is Bobo 103.1.
The BBC's From Our Own Correspondent.
In today's Russia, no one is allowed anywhere near the political stage if they pose a serious challenge to Vladimir Putin.
Stories and reflections from our reporters around the world.
There is a major sense of insecurity here.
More people are coming in from Sudan every day.
From Our Own Correspondent from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
How can we understand the world better?
The BBC World Service is a window onto the wider world.
The vantage point from which to survey a new horizon.
News, reports, and analysis from around the world.
Stories we think matter.
Different people from different societies.
We get to the heart of global issues.
News, stories, and global perspectives from the BBC World Service.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
For business, they say location, location, location. But really, there's no better location than right here, right now on your mobile phone or laptop. Buy and sell your pre-owned gear where the island is searching online. Buy and sell on ektrade.com. That's ektrade.com.
Across Cayman on 103.1 FM, online, and on your smart speaker. Powered by Health Services Authority, the home of the BBC World Service. This is Global 103.1.
BBC News with Sue Montgomery. President Volodymyr Zelensky has said he believes a lasting peace can be achieved in Ukraine this year, with ongoing support from the United States. He made the comment after speaking to Donald Trump for an hour on the phone. Sarah Smith reports from Washington.
Relations between these two presidents appear to have greatly improved since their explosive meeting in the Oval Office. The Ukrainian leader took great care to thank Mr. Trump and praise his leadership of the peace talks. When Mr. Zelensky asked for additional air defense systems to help protect Ukrainian civilians, the American president said he would help to try and find the necessary equipment in Europe. As the two men then discussed the Russian commitment to stop targeting vital Ukrainian power plants, Donald Trump said that American ownership of those plants would be the best way to protect them. He's not previously mentioned wanting to take over Ukraine's energy infrastructure.
Thousands of people are demonstrating in Istanbul against the arrest of the city's mayor, Ekrem İmamoğlu, who's seen as the main political rival to Turkey's president. All protests have been banned and some of them have been violently broken up by police. Mr. İmamoğlu and dozens of other people associated with the opposition are faced with charges including corruption. The European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, condemned the detentions.
As a Council of Europe member that Turkey is and an EU candidate country, Turkey must uphold the democratic values, especially the rights of elected officials. So we want Turkey to remain anchored to Europe, but this requires a clear commitment to democratic norms and practices, and it is key that Turkey respects these fundamental principles.
Mexico's Attorney General has criticised state investigators for their handling of a site suspected to have been used by a cartel for mass killings. Alejandro Gertz said local officials failed to take proper fingerprints or carry out forensic tests at the ranch in Jalisco last September. Hundreds of pairs of shoes, items of clothing and charred human remains were discovered during a raid by the authorities. Mr. Gertz said he would uncover the truth.
My obligation is to receive all the evidence and make it public. This is what I'm doing, and from that principle, I will establish all the premises of the federal crimes that we will investigate. This is a very important case for the country's public life. We must handle it very carefully. The prosecutor's office must take responsibility of this investigation.
The Israeli military has extended its ground operations in Gaza a day after it resumed airstrikes in the Palestinian territory. The UN's humanitarian chief, Tom Fletcher, has demanded answers after a staff member was killed when an explosive hit a UN compound in central Gaza. BBC News. A judge in New York has ruled that a student of Palestinian origin who led protests at Columbia University against Israel's military campaign in Gaza can challenge the legality of his arrest. The judge rejected the Trump administration's bid to dismiss the appeal by Mahmoud Khalil. The US Central Bank has again kept interest rates unchanged as it waits to see the wider effects of President Trump's stop-start tariffs. The decision means the key rate will stay between 4.25 and 4.5%. From New York, Michelle Fleury.
The Fed Chairman Jerome Powell said that further progress on bringing down inflation may be delayed because of Mr. Trump's tariffs. Officials are now forecasting higher inflation and slower growth. Still, the central bank decided to leave interest rates unchanged and signalled it may cut rates 2 more times this year, matching its previous prediction. Mr. Powell stressed that he sees little risk in taking a patient approach and waiting to see how the president's policies will affect the economy. Since taking office in January, Trump has introduced a flurry of tariffs which could potentially slow growth and raise prices.
A jury in the United States has found Greenpeace must pay hundreds of millions of dollars in damages to a major pipeline operator. Energy Transfer had accused the environmental group of conducting a campaign of violence and defamation during protests against the Dakota Access Pipeline nearly a decade ago. Greenpeace argued it had little to do with disruption to the project. A 15-year-old from New Zealand has become the youngest person ever to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. Sam Ruth beat the mark by nearly 2 seconds. The teenager was running alongside an Olympic athlete. The 4-minute mile is a benchmark for middle-distance runners. BBC News.
The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, K-Man, to more Straight Talk here on 103.1 FM. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon. And of course, we have, as discussed in the studio, none other than Mr. Heyman Rankin. Just want to set a couple of things straight, Austin, and you can join chorus with me on this. But I just want to say that we're going to start off with this discussion, really giving you an opportunity to, via these questions, to learn a little bit more about Mr. Heyman Rankin, where he's coming from, the family, etc. And I think some of the things we're trying to avoid in the discussion is he has to perform in some debates in his constituency coming up very soon.
Yes.
So there's going to be some specific questions that you're seeing candidates are being asked that we're probably going to try to avoid simply because we don't want his opponent sitting there and taking notes.
As they undoubtedly are
exactly.
right now. Well, again, the phone lines are also open but temporarily closed for at least the first 30 minutes. Again, for the same reasons my colleague just pointed out. We want to, give the audience, in particular our guest, an opportunity to tell us a little bit about himself, his background, his education, what made him decide this time around to run for public office, and then get on to some of his key issues.
Absolutely.
And that will, of course, better enable the listening audience, particularly, hopefully, the constituents of Bordentown West to call in and ask some specific questions. But without any further ado, we want to welcome our guest representing the Cayman Islands National Party for the constituency of Bordentown West, Mr. Heyman Rankin. Good evening, and thank you for being on Straight Talk.
Good evening to you both. Thank you very much for having me. Good evening to the listening audience. I hope traffic is not too bad. I know it's 5:08, but hopefully you could enjoy this talk show as we converse back and forth.
No, absolutely. I'm sure they will. Well, again, what a pleasure it is to have you as our guest in studio. Let's talk to us. Tell us, who is Heyman Rankin? What's your background as Hussein Kemani, and who your mom and daddy is?
Who you for, right?
Who you for?
Yeah, so good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Heyman Rankin, your candidate for Bordentown West. To give you a little bit about my background, I don't know how far you want me to go back there, Austin.
Well, I think it's important for the audience to connect, and at least from my perspective, I mean, not to drill into details, but cursory overview saying, I went to this primary school, I went to middle school.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Okay.
And you browse right over it till you get to university. University, obviously, the key point. We're going to talk about some of the courses you studied, what you graduated with. Obviously, that lends itself to experience that may be relevant to your, hopefully, new role on April 30th.
Absolutely. So, okay, now you can really have me thinking here, because I went to quite a few primary schools growing up.
Quite a few?
Yeah, actually.
Okay. There's a story right there.
So let's think. Savannah is the first one that comes to mind.
Okay.
I do remember going there for year one. I bounced to Triple C for a year, and then my mother, she decided to do her further education in Louisiana.
Okay.
So I was actually I tagged along with her.
Okay.
Yeah. It was interesting times, because in my mind, Louisiana is the down south.
Yeah.
And it's it's all hot in my mind.
Right.
But I never forget, we went there, and one year it snowed mildly.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Not what you'd expect from
Not what-
Louisiana at
no,
all.
not. But I was
Cajun
happy.
country.
I was so happy.
Yeah.
So happy. Because it was my first time seeing snow.
That's
Mind
what I was
you-
going to say. That was
yeah,
been your first time.
first time indeed. But it wasn't a lot of snow, but it was something. It's a little more like ice, to be fair.
And how
Right.
how old were you then when you went to Louisiana with
I
your mom?
have no idea. That was
Primary
a long
school, I
time
would
ago.
expect maybe 4 or 5, maybe.
I think that was maybe grade 2, 3.
Yeah, okay.
Wow.
No, grade 3 was triple C.
Okay.
So it was grade 2, and then I came to triple C, and then grade 4 I went back again. My mom was like a
8 or 9 then.
something around there, yeah.
Yeah.
But she was a big stickler for education
Sure.
and wanting to better herself. She
Oh,
went
absolutely.
to Dillard University, and she went all in. I think she ended up with a master's, and later on in life got a doctorate.
Oh, that's outstanding.
Yeah.
I imagine she was a huge role model on you.
Absolutely. From an educational standpoint, my education was always something that I took serious from day one.
Right.
So much so to the point where when I moved back, I got to go to good old George Hicks. I know
Okay.
that's not something that's around anymore, right?
No, it's not. And yeah, George Hicks has now became Clifton Hunter.
Yeah.
And then they got Clifton Hunter and John Gray are the
John
two
Gray.
are the two high schools now.
So that's what I did. I went to George Hicks, grade 8.
Mhm.
I remember that vividly.
Okay.
Good times.
Yeah.
And then we went to John Gray.
Okay.
And I actually graduated from there with honors. I can't remember how many CXCs I had. I want to say 8,
Wow.
possibly 10.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
again, long time ago.
Bright fella.
Indeed.
So you graduated high school in Kemet.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
All right. And then from there you went on to university. Where'd you go to?
So I started at UCCI.
Okay, good.
I did maybe a semester or 3 there at UCCI.
Yeah.
And I remember there was this fair. It was a school fair.
Okay.
And there was this one chap in there saying, "Hey, do you want to go to the University of Tampa? You're a tall guy. You can make it on the basketball team." And the moment he said that, my head just was like, "Yeah, I could be a basketball player."
Yeah.
And I signed up and I transferred literally because of this dude like swelling my head a little bit about the basketball team.
Just encouraging.
Just encouraging. Absolutely.
Indeed.
And can you not hear me?
Yeah, no, I need you. I need you to just maybe cozy up to that microphone a little bit more.
Okay.
Like it's your friend.
Only higher, but that should do it. I've just turned you up over here. I want to make sure how you're coming across with the listening audience.
Okay. Can you all hear me better now?
Yeah,
better.
Yeah, I think so. But certainly we will keep monitoring because we want you to sound your absolute best.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
So you're talking about University of Tampa. You had
before I got into the University of Tampa, I'll give you a short little story. Graduated from high school, and there was this wonderful internship program. I don't know if it's in play now, but at the time, I was one of the first, if not the first, if my memory serves me correctly, intern at the Attorney General's office with Samuel Bulgin. I'll never forget. He was such a nice. I loved his aura, man.
Sure.
He had still has a really nice aura, very pleasant man.
He's a fine gentleman indeed.
Absolutely, still is. I would say.
Yeah.
And I went there, met Miss Tecia Scott and his staff members, and I got to intern with the Attorney General because I wanted to be a lawyer. My father encouraged me, said, "Hey man, I want to have a lawyer in the family."
Right.
And my mom was like, "Oh, that's a very noble thing." Classic Cayman parents, lawyer, accountant, so forth. So I wanted to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I went there and he took me around, and I'll never, ever forget this. We went to multiple offices, and there was this one individual that when we walked in to speak to them, that person was down on the desk and they were crying, like badly.
Right.
And there were books and like paperwork and all that stuff all around them. And he said, "Mr. Rankin, can you wait outside?" So I went outside, and he was in there for about maybe 15, 20 minutes. And when he came back out, I said, is everything okay, Mr. Bulgin? I said, yes, everything's fine, but the person is having a little difficulty in their management role now. It's new to them. And as an attorney, attorneys are normally good at the law.
Right.
And not so much at managing people. And I guess that person was having some difficulties managing folk. And I'll never forget this, because this is what really tipped me to the University of Tampa. He said, "Him and I strongly suggest before you go and just straight to law school and do a LLB, you do something else to broaden your horizons. And I was 16 at the time, 16 and a half, 17, because I graduated school a little early.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, no worries. So said, so done. So you fast forward to maybe 2-3 months after that internship, when I started UCCI, I was just always cognizant of, you know, what can I do? What can I do to broaden my horizons? So I was doing like natural sciences. I did 2 sciences degrees I started off with. But I realized when I hit chemistry, like 302 or something like that, like, man, this isn't really for me. I'm not sure if I want to pursue a degree in this. You want some water?
You
good?
Yeah, take a break. All right, fair enough.
Yeah. And then in the end, I decided to settle in with business administration.
Right.
And that was something that I loved. I finally found my niche in terms of something that I can do before law school that could, quote unquote, broaden my horizons at a young age.
Okay.
And then after about a year or so of going to UCCI, I met this recruiter. And at the time I was playing basketball. I was traveling a lot with the national team.
Okay.
We played in Turks and Caicos. We played
good.
in Florida. We were all over the place. Like,
so you've represented the country in one fashion or the other.
Oh,
before.
absolutely. Whether it's sports or the nonprofit organization that I work for at the moment prior to joining the, putting my hat in the race.
Right.
So when fast forward now to this guy, meeting this guy, and he's like, yeah, the University of Tampa, and it's just a stone throw away, and if anything goes bad, you could come home easily and you won't get homesick. I was like, all right, well, this makes sense. And he thinks I could be a basketball star over there. And
yeah, sure, why not?
Why not apply? So I applied, and next thing I know, I got accepted, and my credits were transferred, and I got a government scholarship because of my academics. And then I was at the University of Tampa studying a business management degree. And funny enough, once I got there, I realized, look, I really want to focus on my schoolwork. I'm not necessarily sure I want to partake in basketball at such a high level.
Yeah.
Because I went there and I looked, and it was like,
It's
guys.
tough.
It's tough,
It's
man.
tough to play collegiate level anything.
Absolutely.
And then, it's still focused on your academics. One or the two usually end up suffering.
3.5 hours a day.
Yeah, no, it's a tall order, and certainly, anybody who watches basketball now, it's March Madness time. And that's all college ball, but certainly to your point, it's real work, it's real commitment. You're, just an inch away from the pros in terms of what they're preparing you for.
Absolutely.
And it asks a lot from individuals.
Oh, and it asked a lot of me as well, and it took a lot.
Yeah.
It took my ACL, my MCL, my meniscus in the end. I had a major knee surgery in 2011.
That's like.
But it was interesting. So I went there and I said, you know what, maybe I won't do this. And I just buckled down, and my first semester, straight A's,
Nice.
4.0.
Nice.
And I will never forget one class leading up to getting these grades. It was a Sigmund Freud. What does that fall under again? I think it's a psychology class. And we were tasked with observing a group of people and trying to write a report.
Right.
So I was like, all right, what's a group of people I don't want to go off campus and like wander in Tampa. So I saw this thing, and it was like a little piece of paper it was all cut up, and it was asking, it had a number. You could call a number to become a towel boy or a water boy or something like that for the basketball team.
Right.
So, all right, well, let me go and observe them for a semester, and I could write my paper on that. So I did that, but when I walked into the court, the Coach Schmidt, short little fella, he was a bit elderly, and he looked at me and he looked up. What do you mean you want to be the water boy? And he said, do you play basketball? And I was like, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
He said, why you calling me? And then he was like, made a whole thing about my manners and whatnot. And I said, listen, I'm from the Cayman Islands.
Yeah, good brought up.
Exactly, we got manners.
That's right.
And he said, well, what position do you play? And I said, well, like 4, 5 inches in the center, really. And he said, Glenn, and he called this guy over, and he put this guy, English guy, Glenn, super tall, muscle up, abs everywhere, he was like poster boy.
Gotcha.
He puts me in the post, and he's like wants to see what I can do, and he basically works me out in like jeans pants Air Force Ones. I'm just like, okay,
there you go.
Well, let's do it.
That's how we do it.
But needless to say, I gave Glenn the work. And next thing I know, he's saying, you're not going to be a water boy. You're going to be on the team.
You were a walk-on, in other words, then.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. And again, that says something. Top University is they go out to high schools and recruit students specifically to play on the basketball or some of their sporting teams. And they give them scholarships and whatnot. But you weren't in school for sports, but you literally walked on the court and got a spot. Literally. That says a lot about your talent. Really does.
Appreciate that.
Really does.
Appreciate that.
Now, you mentioned that your dad wanted at least one lawyer, and your last name is Rankin. And I got to ask, because I was blown away when I saw your name pop up on the candidate list. And I thought, another brother? How many brothers does this guy have? So how many brothers do you have?
I have 5, 6, 7 brothers.
7 brothers. And are you the youngest?
Oh, wait, no. There's 7 of us in total.
7 in total.
Yeah, my mom, she has... I have 2 brothers on my mom's side and 4 brothers on my father's side.
All right. And where do you fall in the whole, hierarchy?
I'm the youngest of my father, the oldest of my mother.
Okay.
So I'm
all right.
It's a weird dynamic,
so you're
actually.
both the baby and the big brother. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That is
very
interesting. So what year did you graduate University of Tampa?
I think 2011, if I'm
2011?
not mistaken.
And you graduated with bachelor's BA in business management?
11 or 12. Yes, bachelor's in, exactly what you just said. I got a 3.5 something GPA.
Nice.
Or 3.45. I was like 0.5 off of getting magna cum laude.
Magna cum laude.
I was so annoyed with that, man.
Well, that's what it is. It's
and
hard.
when you were playing 3.5 hours of basketball a day for years,
that's what does it.
Yeah,
that's what does it.
And I started off with the 4.0, but in the end.
But still, a very respectable.
Oh, absolutely.
Grade point average
I
graduate.
still got honors program distinction, to be fair, because I was in the honors program. But in terms of the final grade. Yeah.
And you said, so after you graduated university, you came back and you started working with a nonprofit, which was another opportunity to sort of, represent the country at a national level. Talk to us about the nonprofit.
No. After I graduated the University of Tampa, I came back and it was really challenging to get a job. I mean, I came back, such good grades.
Yes.
I was doing work experience over there. I was doing a lot of different things, and I thought, I can easily get a job. Right. This would be fine. But it was not as easy as I thought it was.
How long were you looking?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was for a little while.
Sure.
And then in the end, my family said, "Hey, man, come work for us. Figure out your next move." And I said, "Well, my next move is law school. I'm just trying to figure out something in between. In between."
Yeah.
And then I signed up to go to the University of Law, formerly known as the College of Law, to do the graduate diploma in law, which is effectively an LLB, a 4-year course condensed into 7 months. Mm-hmm. And I did it.
Oh, nice.
That was extremely, extremely challenging.
I
do not recommend anyone do that. But
if you enjoy life and fresh air and seeing the sunshine, this might not be a course for you.
But if I get it accurate, I would like to underscore what you're saying, because basically what you're suggesting is, here is this person that's went away, done well in school, got that college degree, but comes back and couldn't get a job.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
I want to highlight that, because that, amongst other things, puts you clearly in a position to understand the situation that many other Caymanians are facing now. And that's one of the challenges facing the country. One of the things you'll have to fix if you get into office.
Mm-hmm.
So,
would you say that job creation would rank amongst one of your priorities? Obviously, having gone through that experience and knowing what the next generation of Caymanian, because we hear it all the time, and rather discouragingly, we hear probably more often than not, young people say, when I graduate university, I'm probably never coming back to Cayman because the opportunities aren't there, and that's brain drain. I mean, generationally, that's what we've done as a country. The next generation is always smarter, more equipped education-wise than the last, and that's done not by accident, but on purpose, but under the acceptance or assumption that when we bring our young people back to Cayman, we can fill them in key roles that they can grow and whatnot. And of course, certainly, go on to raise a family and lead the next generation. But that's just not happening.
No.
So
and what's crazy to me as well, when I first came back from the University of Tampa, remember I said at the beginning, I went on a government scholarship.
Right.
In my mind, why wasn't a job in government waiting for me when I came back?
That too is a surprise.
And it's still an issue today. And that was 2011, 12. I should know what year I graduated, but it was a long time ago.
More than a decade ago.
Yeah. But that's still a problem today.
Right.
I'm probably eager and jumping ahead, but I'm guilty of this all the time.
No, go for it.
Never mind. So when do you think you kind of got those first inklings, desires to say, maybe I want to run for office. I want to make a difference in the country.
Well, it's kind of always appealed to me. From a young age, I always used to see politicians come to my father for, advice, for guidance, one way or the other. Whether they took it is a whole different, the advice he was given is a whole different ball game. But just the allure of being able to be in a position to make a difference has always appealed to me. And again, we're going to fast track through the story that you guys asked me to tell you all here. But, my time at the Ombudsman office was really instrumental in me deciding to throw my hat in the race this year. So fast forward, College of Law, finish the GDL, get qualified as an attorney, did not have job satisfaction, trying to help some billionaire get his yacht back. And, I really like the tech aspect of it. We're skipping over some steps here, but I was really into Bitcoin, blockchain technology, and helping to, shape that industry. I actually helped shape that industry quite a bit prior to the Virtual Asset Service Providers Act coming into play. But in any event, the role that was offered to me was in litigation, and I didn't, that didn't really appeal to me. So I said, you know what, let me go back to my roots somewhat. And there was a Data Protection Act. The Data Protection Act had just come into force, and it was new, and it sounded exciting. And I was writing memos on the Data Protection Act and training certain staff members on the Data Protection Act, in addition to Bitcoin-related stuff. It was all fintech. The fintech stuff always gave me a sense of happiness in terms of legal work I would do in the private sector.
Yeah.
So I decided to go throw my hat in to the Ombudsman office. I was successful in getting a role there. I did that for about 3 years. And in my mind, again, I'm on a government scholarship. I was on a government scholarship. I need to put back my 3 years. Did any government official reach out to me to say, hey, you owe us 3 years, do it? No one reached out. But the way, like you mentioned earlier, my broad-upsy, it compelled me to want to put in those 3 years. So I sought to make a decision, stay in the private practice, become a litigator, helping some billionaire get his yacht or boat or whatever back, or do I help my people? And interesting enough, there was this data protection role that was right up my alley. I get to do something I like in the fintech related space, and I help to, provide a service to the Caymanian people. So that, at that point, I went to the Ombudsman office. And once my 3 years was up, I was looking to leave, but then we got a new ombudsman, and she was like, what do you mean you're leaving? No. You need to, and next thing I know, I was promoted to deputy ombudsman, but on the complaint side. So I went from a lot of fintech-related matters and data protection-related matters, dealing with government and private sector, to effectively being in charge of a department with multiple investigators that investigated the police, that investigated government. And when I really started to see the injustices that our people were facing at such a high level, I was like, nah, man, this isn't right. I remember having to send, reports and be on the phone with the anti-corruption commission. I remember having to be in contact with other regulators in relation to the things that are going on in our islands. And once I got a snapshot into that, I was like, nah, our people are suffering. on a whole, and it's very simple things that can be implemented to make a change. Although I was making a change, right? We're helping to change policies, we're helping to get laws changed, we're holding government and the police and the private sector accountable. Because one of the other things I didn't mention is the Whistleblowers Act. So that was something else that I also enforced. And for that year that I was in that position, it was very legal in nature. The whole time I was there was very legal in nature, but that was much more intense.
Right.
The interviewing of people, the writing of reports, the legal analysis that had to be done, and then going to the ombudsman, having challenge meetings on what was prepared and going through things line by line. It was intense, but I really loved it. And that really brought me job satisfaction to a whole different level. And I said, well, what else can I do that can have a much broader impact? And then all those emotions from way back when I was a young kid, looking at how my father used to, be, providing advice and someone of high stature that people respected. I said, you know what? I'm going to be the guy that used to go to my father, but I'm going to be a much better version of that individual.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Well, certainly working for the ombudsman, and in particular, of course, in the complaint section, was sort of your clarion call to doing something, obviously, a bit more purposeful. I take your point that you saw the injustice and you didn't like what you saw, and you thought there had to be a better way.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I just really want to jump in to highlight and clarify something as well. So I think that is a great thing, because just that in itself, you would have been dealing with complaints from the general public who feel that they have been wronged by a particular government department, even if it's inclusive of the police. And a person like yourself, using your legal mind and all the other skills that you had garnered to be able to go and try to get justice for that person, if you like.
Yes.
And I definitely think it's worthy to note for the members of the public that you have that level of experience of actually defending them, whether they're aware of it or not. So it's very good.
Yeah. So when people say to me, well, what have you been doing in the community? Well, I mean, you don't have to go and cut bush and put a bench and call it a park for you to say I've done something in the community.
Yes.
I've been working at such a high level for so long, getting things changed at such a high caliber, that it's not one community that's been affected. It's all communities across all islands.
Yeah.
You name a government department, I've investigated them. I've led a team of investigators that have investigated them, done the legal analysis on it, and made recommendations to get things fixed.
Yeah. And again, I'll highlight that because it's one of the things that Austin and I have touched here on the program is that, a lot of times people are always looking for the visual. I didn't see you, Austin. I didn't see you around the place, where sometimes they literally want you to hang out in the bar rooms too. But, they're not seeing you. The world likes the tangible, I just saw a bench, there wasn't a bench before. But the fact that you're in that office, a lot of times people need to understand you're working on their behalf, solving problems, even though it's not as visible as the bench.
Exactly.
Yes. No, absolutely. It is 33 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock, and we are chatting with Mr. Heyman Rankin, candidate for the Boddentown West constituency, learning a little bit about his background, learning a little bit about what motivated him to put his hat into the ring and vie for your vote on April 30th. We're going to pause, take a very short commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to talk specifically about what some of those key issues are as part of his candidacy, and in particular, obviously impacting first the constituents of Boddentown West, and then, of course, overall nationally. So keep it locked. There'll be more Straight Talk still to come right here, only on 103.1 FM.
More Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio coming up. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Bobo FM.
Hey man, could it be you? Tortuga's 10K giveaway is back, and someone's walking away with $10,000 in cash. Every time you spend $25 at Tortuga Fine Wine and Spirits or discount liquors, in-store or online at tortuga.ky, you get a shot at winning big. As well as $10,000 in cash, we've got thousands in giveaways to hand out every week. Think staycations, the latest iPhones, exclusive experiences, and more. Get in to win. Visit tortuga.ky for the full terms and conditions.
Welcome back to Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio. Have your say on 745-2626. Bobo FM.
And welcome back, hey man, to more Straight Talk here on 103.1 FM. We're your host, Ellio Solomon, myself, Austin Harris. And again, our guest in studios for the constituency of Buttontown West with the Cayman Islands National Party, we have Mr. Heyman Rankin as our guest in studios. Obviously, spent the first half hour getting to know Mr. Heyman a little bit better, getting to know his background. Again, he made a valuable point when people ask, well, you know, what have you done in the community? Well, again, some things, you know, aren't always visible at first glance, but certainly the sweat of your brow and the fruits of your labor can be seen nationally on a number of areas that you've obviously highlighted. We do have one caller, and well, whilst they're calling, let's see if we can take that call before we move on to some of the issues relevant to your campaign. Good evening, caller. Nope, didn't decide to stick around. All right. Well, with that in mind, you know, you talked earlier on that, you know, one of the things that was first a glaring injustice to you personally was coming back after graduating university, thinking there's a job waiting for me. You came back with a government scholarship, assuming, quite naturally, that there would at least be a job in government. But none of that was true. Thankfully, you know, had a family business in which you could fall back into. You fell back into that. You fell back into law. You applied yourself there. You got to work in the ombudsman office, and there you saw even more injustices. Talk to us about what are some of the key election priorities, issues that you would certainly seek to address. I would assume job creation for Caymanians is center stage in all of that.
Absolutely, 100%. Before I get into job creation, I would like to talk more so about an injustice that the people that are listening to this are likely facing right now.
Tell us.
That's the traffic.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people are sitting down right now in traffic.
Almost guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
Yes, they're probably saying preach it.
Yeah,
Preach it,
they're
yes.
probably getting some horns blowing.
Yeah,
right
you
now.
probably are. That's right. Now that you're going around a roundabout if you've moved 3 inches in the last half hour.
Yeah. But listen, I would say that it's a massive injustice for the people who live in Buttontown, North Side, East End. Every single day, we have to wake up at ungodly times to get into town in West Bay to go to work. My children, my wife and I, we live in a perpetual state of tiredness. We're always tired.
Yeah, I bet.
Literally.
I bet.
We have to wake up 4:30 every morning to make the breakfast, get ready, get out of the house. And if we don't leave by 6,
you're in problems.
We're not getting town until after 8 o'clock.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Right. No,
Maybe 8:05, 8:07. And school starts, the final bell is 7:55.
Yeah.
And if you're pulling up 7:55, they're late.
Yeah.
My wife and I have been reprimanded when we first moved back to the islands. We got reprimanded because we couldn't figure it out. Why do we have to wake up so early all the time and trying to play the game of, traffic roulette, basically. Right. And the first year, we had to go to the principal's office twice.
Twice. Why are you late? What's the difficulty here?
Exactly.
We have other families that do a fine job. What's your problem?
Oh, man. It was
getting used to it.
It was horrible. It was horrible. And I just want to say I completely sympathize with everyone from the Eastern Districts. Buttontown, Eastern North Side is when I say Eastern Districts. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And I think it's wrong. I think it's an injustice. I think there's simple things that could be implemented that doesn't cost the government anything, if not just a little bit of, brain power in the pushing of the pen to do things that can get this problem sorted, right?
Sure.
Now, let's talk about some of those issues. And I'm happy to, I know you guys are trying to look out for me with the debate, but I've said some of these things already in public. I've had people come back to me saying, wow, Heyman, the way in which you said that, I'm hearing other candidates also say it, but just like how you did it. I think they're copying you, man. That's okay. Well, you know what? It needs to be done.
Yeah.
So I have no problem sharing some of my solutions.
They say imitation is the most sincere form of flattery.
Yes, that's what they say.
Well,
so they're flattering you all the way through.
God bless whoever was copying me, and I won't call no names.
But feel no way about calling it first. I said it first. Because that's what it was.
Well, but like I said,
and you're in that type of race right now.
Fair enough. But you know what? This isn't some sort of, who has the best idea type of scenario. This is who's going to implement the idea and get it done.
True.
Right? These first points. Now, why do all of our schools have to start around the same time? Why can we not stagger the school start times?
No good reason why you can't. None.
Does that cost the government anything to do that?
Well, again, I mean, if you staggered, because what has been, well, at least one of the complaints coming out of the education side of things is if you stagger the times to later, then that means a teacher, normally used to going home at 3 o'clock, may have to stay till 3:30. And theoretically, they're on the clock longer. Nobody likes to work longer than they have to, but it is something that can be adjusted very easily. And why not? I think staggered school times is a fantastic place to start.
It's logistics.
Yeah.
It is logistics.
That's all it is.
That's all it is.
Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you may have to have care in place for the different start times, and maybe the extra care programs, okay, maybe that'll cost you some money.
Yeah.
But is it going to break the piggy bank?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
This isn't some rocket science idea.
No, it's not.
To me, biggie boy.
Yeah.
This common sense.
Quite right.
You understand?
But it ain't so common.
Well, he used to say that as well.
He used to say his father was a smart man.
Indeed,
Smart
he
man.
was.
Smart man.
And I am cut from the same cloth.
Well, that's good.
So
Obvious.
that's one of the first. That's one of the first things you can do. We're talking short-term solutions, right?
Yes.
Just the other day, does anyone in here live in the Eastern Districts?
Well, I don't live there, but I have a piece of land up there, and I come from there every now and then.
Okay.
And in fact, I was in East End, and to your point about times, I actually thought, oh yeah, for sure, if I leave my farm, 6 o'clock, I'll be fine.
No.
That didn't work. Well,
Yeah.
trust me, I learned it. And the next day, I tried it like at 5, and I think by 6, I was at Oz's gas station.
Oh wow!
It's
For
like,
many years, I was,
crazy.
in Prospect, in the eastern end of Prospect, Boston Newlands Road.
Okay.
So to your point, I recognize that window of opportunity. If I didn't leave the house by 7 o'clock and I left at 7:05, 5-minute difference is the end of the world. So
but
yes,
either way, you're seeing flexible hours as a good solution. Like the short
That's
term.
just one point. That's a one short-term point.
Yeah.
But what about the other day? And the reason I ask this is because you would see the difference. For us, it takes about 2 hours every morning. But just the other day when schools were out, it took us 20 minutes to get into town.
there's a huge difference, a notable difference when schools are out versus when schools are in session for traffic, and that should obviously tell us a lot about traffic.
Exactly. So what if we required private schools to have buses?
Yes.
And make it mandatory that those kids have to use the bus?
Yes.
Does that cost the government anything?
The buses.
Well, especially he's saying private schools.
Yeah.
Well, you see, you're saying private schools, but again, knowing something about this topic, I'm happy to help you with this.
Let's go. Let's
but
talk
the private
about it.
schools, others have recommended your recommendation, and the obvious blowback you get from private schools as well, where our resources are stretched thin. We can't charge our students more money.
I invite
so
anyone.
They're suggesting that if they want buses, the government should buy them for them.
Oh, okay.
Just saying. You asked for a cost. I'm giving you a
Interesting.
real world example.
Well, I can add to that before you answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
This might very well help you.
Okay, go for it.
I don't know if it's changed, but I know at least one of the private schools, and it may very well be others, but I know government used to give them a certain amount of money as well.
They do. They do.
I
Private
think
schools are subsidized.
this was way back in the day, but it was at least about a 500,000, call that $500,000.
Let me ask you this, right? If the resources are stretched so thin, how can we have multiple private schools popping up on island?
Quite right.
I hear you.
No. The demand is very much there.
1,300
Yeah.
CI up.
Yeah. And they're not cheap.
Per child.
They're not cheap.
And that's just from regular hours. If you leave them there after school, that could easily turn into $1,600, $1,800 on the low end.
Yes, absolutely.
So I mean, we've heard people come down and say all sorts of things and pull the wool over our eyes many, many moons ago. And and I'm not saying that private schools are doing that, right? But what I'm saying is, why don't we look into this a little bit more?
Sure.
I think it has a lot of merit, because if you actually look at it, you're absolutely right. One school is in session. That's it. It's traffic, morning time and evening time. So anything you could do, either where you employ flexi hours or change the hours in this particular case with relation to school. And if you add it on to that, make the whole issue of public transportation specifically for schools,
we can soon get there.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay. Oh, absolutely. It's another, to your point, a logistic question. And, what can we achieve if we begin the conversation? So I encourage you to do so, certainly on your point of buses. Again, there was another article that appeared, I think, last week on the pages of the local newspaper saying less than 1/3 of overall students take the buses.
Exactly.
When you look at the roadways, you see more SUVs than you do sedans. And these SUVs usually consist of one parent and one child.
Exactly.
But the space it takes up on the road, obviously, compounds the traffic problem. But if the majority of students were taking a bus to school, we would see almost an overnight change.
And I
encourage you to pursue that.
I'm not blaming any of the school kids listening to this. I love you all. I support you all dearly. It's the system that is broken, the system that's in place to provide you with transportation to and from school that needs looking at. And that's all we're talking about here. So don't feel bad if any of you do.
We have a caller on the line. I want to see if they're still there. Stick around. Okay. Again, that's the second time I've gone to the phone lines. I don't want to interrupt our guest in studio mid-speech, so whenever he's winding down is when I will reach for the phone. Certainly, I will say to those who are calling in, if I do reach to connect your call and you don't hear me saying, "Good evening, caller," don't speak, but I don't want to lose you. So we have another call. Let's see if we can go to it now. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Good evening, Ellio and Austin. How are you?
We're very well, thank you. And yourself?
Well, we'd like to say that, Cayman, we're very proud of you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We are hearing you.
Yeah, I was just saying that we're very proud of you. You're going to do Cayman well. This is your brother.
It's nothing better than that.
Yes.
Thank you, Kenny.
But what Heyman forgot to tell you all that he loves dogs, and one of his first businesses that he did as an entrepreneur was he had a dog food brand that he used to promote and sell in Cayman. I don't know, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and he came to me when I had the radio stations, and he says, "I would like to run some ads." I'm like, "Well, that's good thinking." And I said, "Well, how are you going to pay for it?"
Right.
He says, "Well, we're in your office and it's clean. I could decorate it for you." Up to today, I haven't painted my office or redecorated it, despite his colorful patterns he put in there. But yeah, I would say, Heyman, we're proud of you. You definitely have vision like our father. You are a hard-working person. You take challenges on, and by far you do the country well. I must say I had a young intern that came and worked for me, Mr. Maurice Rocket, Miss Rocket's son. And before he left, because he worked for me for like 6 months, before he left to do another job, he said, "I like that fern in there." I said, "Well, my brother gave it to me when he decorated the office, but I think it will do you well because you are also a well-liked and a hard-working individual." So said, so done. Within a second, the guy had a treat in his hand. But Heyman, again, I just wanted to say, you got our support. You'll do well. You'll have your ups and downs. Stay focused, and you're in company with two good individuals on the radio.
Excellent. Thank you very much, caller. Certainly do appreciate it.
I really appreciate that.
745-2626 is the number, or you can reach us at our WhatsApp number at 928-2562. We have received one more comment via WhatsApp on the audio side, so I need you to put your headset back on.
Okay.
And we'll have a listen to what this listener has to say.
Thank you, Mr. Heyman Rankin, for your informing the public on exactly what you plan on doing, as a candidate for these islands. No, I think that we can do better, okay, as far as the transportation is concerned.
Oh, yeah.
And I do sympathize with you in what you had to endure in your earlier days in trying to get to work on time. I think we all can subscribe to that, to having some experience with that. However, I think that Cayman is at the stage where we are outnumbered and overpopulated, and it is now time for government to step up to the plate and provide public transportation for its people. Relying on expats who are not even disciplined or cultured to provide transportation for our people is absolutely efficient, and it is non-productive. Government need to step up to the plate and provide some public service transportation. Provide public buses with numbers or letters, whatever you want to use, and bus drivers that wear uniforms, that are trained how to deal with the public, how to deal with passengers on a bus. Secondly, I think it's time for a master ground transportation service, something like the Metro Rail in Miami, with a train, that stops at downtown Miami at the what they call it again, the government center, okay? Outside the government center, there are buses that connect you to where you're going, to your destination. Cayman needs to do the same thing. You need a train, you need master ground transportation where you have trains that go throughout the island. They stop at Cayman Bay, they stop at the airport, okay, the hospital, places like that, the hospital up in East End, okay. They have various stations where they stop at to let off passengers and take on more passengers. And you must have government buses that connect these people to where they're going to be, to their final destination, which is a bus stop near to their homes where they live or where they work.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for those comments. An opportunity to respond.
No, absolutely. So, there's multiple steps to what I'm proposing, and she definitely hit the nail on the head with the third point. So I was moving through short term, medium term, long term, right? So we talked about staggering school hours. We've talked about, requiring private schools to have buses. But this is the next thing, right? And this is more of a medium-term solution, which is to have a modern ground transportation system. Like I said, she hit the nail on the head. And this is something that the Cayman Islands National Party is in full support of. We've done the research on it. Why isn't it implemented? Why are we spending tens of millions on government pet projects that serve no real purpose for the country? Do any of you agree that the whole Georgetown revitalization project that took years, that bankrupt multiple businesses in the area, disturbed the flow of traffic for years, was worth it?
No, in a short answer, no.
No.
We have argued this point extensively. As my colleague would say, we have ventilated. the subject to a large extent. And when we think about Georgetown revitalization, remember, this is a street we're talking about. Cardinal Avenue, one street, not Georgetown. Revitalizing Cardinal Avenue.
But I digress. The whole point of that statement, is really and truly, why do we continue to not put our thinking caps on and do things that benefit Caymanians first?
Yeah.
That's what the Cayman Islands National Party is about. This is a big part of the reason why I decided to run with the Cayman Islands National Party, because I'm surrounded with people who don't only have common sense, but have a similar educational backgrounds as I do, that can really think things through and deliver the best for the people. So, a modern ground transportation system is 100% on the list as well. But obviously that's going to take a little time to purchase the stuff, get it down, get the routes implemented, make sure there's technology implemented to ensure everything is on time. People could, know when the schedules are, and it's reliable, right? But when I say a little time, I don't mean 4 or 5 years from now. I mean, within 18 months, within maximum 2 years. That can be implemented.
What specifically, when you say this master ground transportation, what specifically are you speaking to?
We are speaking to a national bus system that specifically employs Caymanians to do the job. The current system that we have right now does not work. It is broken. And not only that, it makes us look bad. I heard a lady told me just the other day, she said, "Hey man, every so often I like to take the bus because, I don't know, I'm nostalgic and I like to do it." And this one time that I went on the bus, mind you, these omnibuses are privately owned buses, right? That majority of them are not Caymanians that have these positions. And she proceeded to tell me this driver charged a couple. Guess how much they charge them to drive from town to Pedro, the top of Pedro.
I
That to walk to Pedro.
hazard to guess.
No, just guess one time.
$14.
$100 each.
Oh wow, wow.
She cussed that man purple.
For good reason.
Purple. This is the example you setting. These people come here and you acting like you some taxi and charging all these prices and they jumble up on the bus with the rest of us.
$100 per person.
And he's talking in a foreign language.
Yeah.
With a foreign accent.
Yeah.
And this is what these people are experiencing. CI, by the way.
Fine.
Yeah.
No, but she reported him. And she said, I don't know if anything was done.
Yeah.
But we need to implement a system that is not only reliable, that implements technology throughout. So it's, people could know where the buses are at any particular time. They can't be little small omnibuses. They have to be large buses that can hold a lot of people and transport people throughout the island. And the final point that I'm going to make besides that is a long-term plan. Now, this, I guess, could be somewhat big-brained, I suppose, but hear me out.
Yep.
We're spending $1 billion on a road to take people from the east to the west. And I'm not saying the road isn't needed. Over time, yeah, maybe we could fully build out that road. But what if we took a fraction of that and brought a government administration building to the eastern side of the island? And we funded the judicial system to bring a courthouse not too far off from it. And we looked at the data and we said, okay, well, we have this ministry, that department that has a lot of people living on that side of the island. Let's bring those departments, those ministries into this new government admin building on that side of the island. In a snap of a finger, we could take hundreds, if not thousands of people off the road that don't have to go from the east to the west. And this ties into what you said at the beginning with job creation. You bring a government service building, you bring a courthouse, you know what's going to pop up after that?
Tell us.
Private sector.
Mm-hmm.
The law firms, the accounting firms, all sorts of private sector businesses are going to crop up around there. And all of a sudden, Bontown can be great again. It was once the capital. Why now we're some sort of forgotten district? If somebody break their foot in the back of Northwood right now, or Beach Bay, God forbid, you know how long it can take for an emergency service provider to come get to them?
No, indeed. Good point.
It's gonna take a very long time.
Well, in essence, what you'd be doing on the traffic side is clearly a lot of cars that are now heading from the east coming west will be able to stay there, and you'll be able to get some person coming from west heading east.
Exactly.
Mr. Rankin, we unfortunately are drawing very close to the end of our interview. We got about a minute and 20 seconds left. I want to encourage you to share details of any yard meetings, upcoming rallies of the National Party, but some very brief closing remarks.
Absolutely. So the 22nd, which is this Saturday, the Cayman Islands National Party is having our grand rally. I invite you all to come on out. It's going to be at the Compass Greens. I do also ask that you follow us on social media. My social media handle on Instagram is haymondrankin.btw. That's haymondrankin.btw. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you all for listening to me tonight. I really hope I have your vote on the 30th of April. I really hope if you're not in Town West and you're in a different constituency, that you vote for the purple and teal. That's the Cayman Islands National Party. There's an old saying, vote straight. So I'm asking you all to vote straight across the board. I cannot do this by myself. I need my fellow party members to be in government with me so we can get things done and deliver the change that Cayman needs.
Outstanding. Haymond Rankin, we thank you very much for being a guest. We encourage you to come back and join us again for further conversations. Clearly, the listening audience appreciates you, but keep it locked. We'll return after this short break.
Find what you need down every aisle. You want saving, selection, and quality. That's why we're your home store. Home store. The way to make a home. The way to make a home.
BBC News with Sue Montgomery. President Trump has suggested that the United States might take ownership of Ukraine's nuclear power plants to ensure their security. White House officials say the proposal came in Mr. Trump's hour-long phone conversation with President Zelensky on Wednesday. The State Department spokeswoman Tammy Bruce told reporters the talks had been extremely constructive.
President Zelensky thanked President Trump for the support of the United States, especially the Javelin missiles that President Trump was first to provide, and his efforts towards peace. The leaders agreed Ukraine and America will continue working together to bring about a real end to the war, and that lasting peace under President Trump's leadership can be achieved.
Thousands of people are demonstrating in Istanbul against the arrest of the city's mayor, Ekrem İmamoğlu. All protests have been banned for 4 days. Some of the gatherings have been violently broke up by police. Mr. İmamoğlu is seen as the main political rival to Turkey's President, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, as Emre Temel from the BBC Turkish service explains.
Mr. İmamoğlu seemed ready to use Istanbul mayorship as the launchpad for the ultimate prize, presidency. He's a very popular politician, won the mayoral race twice in 2019 and was resoundingly re-elected last year. Mr. İmamoğlu is expected to be named as main opposition.
From all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Straight Talk with your host, Austin Harris, and myself, Ellio Solomon. Got about 24 minutes before we have to end the program. If you want to come in and join in the conversation or you want to carry us in a completely different direction, 745-2626. Are you pointing and saying something, or I misunderstood?
No, that was my cue for you to start talking, but you did it.
Oh, okay, perfect. 745-2626. And, of course, Mr. Harris, you can tell us the WhatsApp number. But great discussion. It was good to have Mr. Heyman Rankin come into the studio. And I definitely learned something. I mean, I know his brothers. I know some of the brothers, at least 3 of them, I think. But never really had a chance to chat too much with him. And it was good to hear his story and learn a little bit more about him. And again, it was encouraging seeing that he has been doing a lot of things already, if you like, working for the public behind the scenes. And I think that's totally awesome. And people need to see that too, because it's not just about the tangibility. And I remember one of our good friends from East End, he used to say, Ellio, in the politics, it's tangibility and measurability.
Yes.
And this is the reason why a lot of times you end up that every election season, you'll see the roads, right? You'll see all these tangible things that are happening, because it's like that's what the voter gravitates to. But we also need to see that a lot of progress that's being made, the true progress many times are the intangibles.
Yes.
Some of those that you really can't see that easy. And it was good hearing him talk about working in the Ombudsman's office, defending the public and dealing with making government a better system, if you like. And he offered up some good solutions in terms of public transportation. I'm just looking forward to him coming back, because we couldn't get into all the juicy stuff.
Yes.
Because we don't want to ruin his debate.
Yes.
But next time.
Indeed. And certainly, we thank Mr. Heyman Rankin for being our guest. We certainly also thank a number of the WhatsApp and callers for the program. We didn't get a chance to connect with all of the callers. There were at least 2 WhatsApp contributors that simply we just ran out of time for. But again, that's your way of encouraging. We invite Mr. Rankin back to the table to continue the discussion. But again, just one of the WhatsApp comments. That was a beautiful interview. He really is a strong candidate in Town West, and we wish him well. It's a comment coming from the listening audience. The WhatsApp number is still available to you, the listening audience. You can dial 928-2562. Again, we can't take your WhatsApp calls, but we can hear your WhatsApp voice notes and, of course, your traditional WhatsApp text messages. We will either play or read those messages live on air. Likewise, 745-2626 is the number. The phone lines will remain open for at least another 19 minutes before we have to sign off. And as Ellio said, whether you want to continue the dialogue in the direction of some of the comments made by our guest, Mr. Heyman Rankin, candidate for Town West, or if you want to take us in a new direction, well, certainly that would be also fine.
I thought his comment as well in sharing his experience, the fact that he had experienced actually coming back as a young Caymanian, qualified and couldn't find a job. I think that bodes well also, and I'd like to highlight that to the public, that a big thing is you can understand something from a purely intellectual level.
Yes.
And don't get me wrong, most of the time you need to be guided by your head, but you also want to get your heart in place, because your head's going to give you good direction and your heart's going to give you the fuel to keep going and get there. And I say that because with that experience, one would hope that that is something that he can equally have a passion for, to say, I'm not just talking about this because I've heard about it.
Yes.
Although there's nothing wrong with hearing about it and still addressing it. But when you've experienced it, a lot of times you might find I'm a little bit more fired up about this because I've been there. I remember that, even when I was talking about my own construction back in the day and saying, I saw a lot of opportunities that we had. I mean, imagine, Austin, at least when I was growing up, it really wasn't a job issue. I mean, there was lots of jobs around, right?
Yeah.
Almost for anyone that was willing to join the company and just work hard, you were guaranteed a job and you could arguably stay there forever.
Yes.
I look at my age, and I was just in my 20s when I was pretty much at a deputy director position within the government, computer services. And a lot of young persons today, it's not because I was that much brighter than them.
Right.
It was just a lot more opportunities. And so I applaud him for coming in. I think he did a decent job, and I look forward to getting him back after the debate so we can drill into some more of his ideas.
No, absolutely. Got another WhatsApp text message saying, hearing that young man speak made me so very proud to be Caymanian. Like you gents, I am a little older than him, so I probably know the same brothers Austin and Ellio know.
Mhm.
But certainly very proud to hear from Haymond today, and thank you guys for hosting him, is the comments coming from WhatsApp.
Absolutely.
Certainly, if you are a candidate in this election, I say so unashamedly.
You read my mind,
If you
Austin.
think that interview went well and you would like the same opportunity, well, there are a couple of ways in which you can reach out to us. If you got WhatsApp, 928-2562, just shoot us a quick WhatsApp message, and we'll get in touch with you. You can send us an email to host@straighttalk.ky, and we will answer you there. Certainly, that is as good as a recommendation as I can give you.
Yeah.
But by all means, please reach out to us and
Yeah,
and share your
absolutely.
thoughts with us.
And definitely not ashamed to say that. I mean, we want to be able to inform the public, and the only way we can do it in terms of yourselves running as a candidate is to have you here in the studio. So come on in, and as my colleague has said before in the past, there's no gotchas, and we'll do our best to try to avoid all the rocks from behind the bushes. Really just want to get candidates in here, and I think that all of our friends out there in the listening public, I think we're dealing with primarily some good intellectuals. We really just want to get that message out there so that you're properly informed and you can make the decision, not about beating and squashing anyone up. There's a time and place for that.
Yes.
We'll get to that another day.
No, we absolutely will get to that another day. Again, just looking forward on our agenda, the next candidate so far in the lineup will be next week, the 26th of March, next week, Wednesday.
Although we will say, there's a slot before that, right?
Well, there's
somebody could slip in.
Somebody could slip in tomorrow or Friday, and obviously, get ahead of the curve if you wanted to. But the next candidate we have on the books will be the 26th of March from 4:30 until 5 o'clock. He will be Mr. Philip Ebanks. He is a candidate, an independent candidate for the constituency of Red Bay. So certainly, we want to welcome Philip next week. And of course, there will be ample promotion and availability options, to promote that show. First, those we'll hear about first will be those who are following us on either our Facebook or Instagram pages. They'll be the first to know, but shortly thereafter, you, the listening audience, will be.
And by the way, I want to say that too. Quite a few people have been checking out the YouTube page, and so again, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, really want you to encourage you to like us, follow us, so you can make sure and get those immediate updates. I greatly appreciate it.
Sure, no, absolutely. It is 14 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. We're just going to pause, take a very short commercial break. But again, if you want to share your comments and views, the phone lines are open to you. 745-2626. Keep it locked. Straight Talk will return in just a few minutes right here only on 103.1 FM.
More Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio coming up. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Bobo FM.
Hey man, could it be you? Tortuga's 10K giveaway is back, and someone's walking away with $10,000 in cash. Every time you spend $25 at Tortuga Fine Wine and Spirits or Discount Liquors, in-store or online at tortuga.ky, you get a shot at winning big. As well as $10,000 in cash, we've got thousands in giveaways to hand out every week. Think staycations, the latest iPhones, exclusive experiences, and more. Get in to win. Visit tortuga.ky for the full terms and conditions.
Welcome back to Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio. Have your say on 745-2626. Bobo FM.
And welcome back, K-Man, to more Straight Talk here on 103.1 FM on your radio dial and simulcasting live on YouTube and Instagram. Phone lines are open, 745-2626. If you have a question or a comment or a remark that you would like to add to the conversation, by all means, reach out to us and let us know what you think. We do have another WhatsApp voice note that we can listen to. Let's see if we can take that now.
The bottom line is, why should working people in Cayman or those in the eastern districts, why should they spend 2 hours on the road trying to get to work or trying to get their child to school, when you can have a Cayman rail or whatever you want to call it, that can take them there in 10 or 15 minutes because those trains run very fast. Why should you spend 10 or 15? Why should you spend 2 hours on the road, risking the danger, a drunken driver or somebody that's high on drugs? Why should you spend that much time on the road? Okay, that's non-productive. When you can get on the train and get to work in 10 or 15 minutes, you're saving a lot of time.
Yep.
And wear and tear on your body. And on wear and tear on your mentality as well. I think that it's time to mature for the country to mature and grow up and mature the infrastructure of the island, and just get with the program. This thing really moved me when Mr. Rankin said that there were two people traveling on a bus with a foreigner that was the driver of that bus, and he's charging people $200, which is $100 each. Let me tell you something. It is time for Cayman to put on their big boy pants and start to take responsibility to protect our tourism, to protect our banking, to protect our health services, because these people are in the wrong place that we're bringing into this country. They are in the front line. They are the faces of Cayman. I don't think so. It's time to do something about it. We need candidates that are going to do something about this. Now, let me tell you something. This is where we need to be headed if we're going to be doing a lot of work to make Cayman a better place, make Cayman great again, or make Cayman great after all, okay? What about a consumer services agency? All right? There's got to be somebody at the top, okay? We need to have an inspector general or a consumer services that people can make these reports on these drivers that are overcharging people. Here in the United States, if you get overcharged with something, you report them to the FTC. If they're doing any crookedness with banking or whatever, you have the FTC to report them to. There are different agencies that you can report these people to. All right? So Cayman is no different. You want to be like America? Okay, well, you need to start implementing some programs like America, okay? Because the British, they have what they have going on there, and it's really not too, I don't know if it's too much better than what is in Cayman already. But I think that it's time to put in place a consumer service agency where if the tourists come in, they're being taken advantage of, they can call, and I think you need to have people out in the field. You have consumer service inspectors or agents that can go out there, find out what's going on, just like the police, find out what's going on and let them fix it. You don't send no police out there, you send a consumer service agent that works directly for the government or works for the governor's office or whatever. But something has to be done. We cannot let these people come there and just take the place over and think that they're running it like some shanty town. It's time to end those days. Cayman is not a shanty town. Cayman represents the pearl of the Caribbean and the envy of the Caribbean. We need to remember that.
Well, thank you to that listener for sharing those thoughts with us. Obviously, giving herself away a little bit. She's listening in, obviously, via streaming video. She's calling in from the U.S., in particular, I think, Miami or Dade County, somewhere in that area there. But again, Caymanians living abroad, staying connected to the issues that are happening right here at home. We thank that caller for taking the time and sharing their views with us. 745-2626 is the number, giving us about 8 minutes, maybe just a little bit more than 8 minutes, at 20 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock remaining in today's program.
I want to jump in and just say I agree with her on a couple of things. One, I like the way she says, get on the train. I like that one.
I thought you might like that.
Yeah, I like that. No, I definitely believe that Cayman could implement a monorail system. Again, I really think it's something that we should look at in terms of public transportation. Also want to agree with her. I think she's got a different name for it, but there was proposals at one point in time, I know way back from 2005, again, not calling the government name, not my intention, but it was to talk about a consumer protection agency, right? And those are the sort of things that whether it's foreign nationals or not, it's whoever, you're looking out for the rights of the consumer. And again, lastly but definitely not least, it is very discouraging to hear what Mr. Rankin had to say in relation to someone charging people here, whether it's a local or otherwise, although I don't think they'll try with a local.
Yeah.
But $100, on a public transportation bus, it's just really ridiculous. And definitely, regardless of what industry you're in, I definitely think that many of us would agree we can do a lot more to try to get a lot more Caymanian faces and stuff in there.
Yeah.
And I want to stress, because I like the diversity that we have in Cayman. I don't really have much of an issue with it. I think you can learn a lot of good things. But you have people that have come here that are doing some positive things and making a very good positive influence. But you also have some unfortunate that are not doing that, and that's very, very upsetting.
Yes, no, absolutely. Well, 6:22 is the time in studios, giving us, again, just about 6 minutes before we have to wrap it up. So, again, we make the call, 745-2626. If you have a comment that you want to share, certainly if you perhaps try to get in while our guest, Mr. Heyman Rankin, was in studios, but missed that opportunity, well, by all means, I know he's still listening, so if you want to tune in, we can certainly share your comments then. I would just say this, perhaps to put other candidates on notice, if we have time, and again, these spots are obviously paid for spots by the candidates themselves, and we try to follow their agenda, not our own. So we give them as much opportunity to express their point of view, get their message out as possible. But they do welcome, obviously, feedback from the listening audience, which we're grateful for. We did have one WhatsApp commentator ask, please, I'd be curious to know what your candidate guest thinks on the 3 referendum questions, which we didn't unfortunately have the opportunity or the time to ask. But I think it's a very relevant question. And again, I will keep that as a note. And certainly if we have the time as early as next week, Wednesday, when we have Mr. Philip Ebanks from Red Bay in studios. Again, we had Mr. Rankin for just about an hour. We'll have Mr. Ebanks for just about 30 minutes. So again, a lot of information that we're going to have to pull off in a short window of time. But whenever we have the opportunity to engage with the listening audience, we certainly will do so because we think it's important to connect our audiences with our candidates.
And again, in fairness to the candidate and to ourselves, I think that, we were trying, we mentioned earlier from the very beginning that he will be engaging in debates.
Yes.
And that is a reason why we were trying to steer away from some of those questions. I know somebody could make an argument, but I think in large part, if you're going to be sitting right next to your opponents, and this is where, again, I have talked about how good it is what the Chamber of Commerce is doing in relation to these public debates. You really want to be able to sort of hear it first time right there in terms of some of these questions so that you can do, as members of the public, do that comparison. It's the first time I'm hearing both of these persons give the answers, seeing how quick they respond, how well they respond, etc., and how great their answers are.
Yes.
And I think it would be a disadvantage to him, unfortunately, if you give answers to some of those questions.
Well, absolutely. Of course, he also alluded to, again, some of the recommendations he made for traffic, and he's already seeing that, picked up by other candidates, perhaps even utilized by other candidates. And
that will happen.
It will happen. And as you say, imitation is the greatest form of flattery, but certainly what you don't want, because this is a race, and it is first past the post. So certainly we don't want to give away too much. But if you are interested in hearing more from Mr. Heyman Rankin, I think your next earliest opportunity to hear that, if you don't go out to one of his yard meetings or perhaps the upcoming rally for the Cayman Islands National Party, which I think he said is going to be held on the 22nd of this month. So that's a weekend, maybe Saturday coming up. But the candidate forum hosted by the Chamber of Commerce will move to Bordentown West on Monday, the 24th of March. So that's just around the corner as well. So you can tune in then to hear more from Mr. Rankin, or you can, again, check his social media pages and further details on the upcoming
So this
rally.
is odd. We had Savannah debates already.
The Savannah debate. Yeah,
Didn't I see something?
Yes, we had the Savannah. The Savannah came on Tuesday. That was yesterday. Monday was Prospect. Savannah was yesterday, and tonight we have the Newlands debate taking place.
Oh, so they are jumping around a little bit.
Well,
because initially when it started, it was almost like, are they going to head from the east, go straight to the west?
Yeah, no,
But
you're right. No,
did
they
a little
started out
jumping
in
around.
East End, they went to North Side, then they came down. So I guess they're, yeah, you're right.
They don't want to give you any.
No, there's
don't want to give too much a clear pattern.
Clearly, there is no rhyme or reason to the Chamber of Commerce.
At least
schedule.
none that we're aware of.
Or not that we're aware of, quite. Let me offer up that caveat. Maybe there is a plan.
Well,
we just don't see it.
I would guess that the plan is I don't want you to know exactly when we're going to get to you.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So you can just, like the West Bears, can just kind of sit there and wait. Now we got another 4 weeks before they come to us.
Like your fingernails, and don't know, it could be tomorrow. You know, they could call me tomorrow. I got to go on the air.
Exactly. So if it's that, I agree with it.
Yes, indeed. I did say, though, I wanted to come around there and check to make sure that we've got more than one candidate. You think you can carry the conversation for about a minute?
Well, how you going to come around here?
I can walk around there and use that computer that's in front of you.
You want me to talk about something for a minute?
Talk about anything for about a minute while I go look at the candidacy.
Well, I'll just talk about the fact that Austin Harris is now moving around the studio and coming over my side, which is, we're close, but this is getting a little bit too close.
Ridiculous.
You know, either way. But yeah, at least we figured out this. Maybe we have a reason why the debates are jumping around. I was just simply saying that it started off in East End, then went to North Side, and there I was being silly, thinking that it was just going to continue in that way, and wondering how, until I just realized, I said, how in the world did we get past Bordentown onto Savannah? I don't know. And now we're going to jump back to Bordentown West on Monday. So again, I just want to encourage everyone, really go out there, make a concerted effort. We want to do our job to send the best person from our constituency. And the only way we're going to do that, and that's if we give everyone a good, proper, and fair hearing, make sure that we do our best to attend the meetings. Sorry for those constituencies where there's at least 5 candidates as opposed to 2. But go out, listen to the candidates, hear what they have to say, and make your good judgment, and send the best candidate from your constituency. I don't think too much about it. That's your job. Let God sort the rest out.
Quite right. On tonight's Newlands, we have, you were right, as we were right before, we have Alva Suku for the PPM,
Suku,
Wayne Panton for the TCCP, and Mr.
Can we just
Raoul.
call that CCP? Why is that TCCP? I mean,
well, without
I
the
keep stammering.
Without the T, they're the Chinese Communist Party, and I think they want to be clear.
No, but
anyway, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for tuning in. Keep it locked for more Straight Talk tomorrow, right here.
The BBC on Bobo.